Sometimes I can get really mixed up with history. Does that ever happen to you? This isn't too uncommon later on in life as we begin to lose our memory for important names and dates. But other times, it just really isn't our fault. See, because a lot of times we're told only pieces of history and important details are left out. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, recently I discovered various pieces of omitted pieces of information from stories I heard about history that have made me completely cynical to everything I have ever and will ever learn about history. Take the poem, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear," The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Anybody remember learning that poem in history class? A few people? That was about Paul Revere racing through town in the Boston area up to Lexington to warn his fellow countrymen that the British were coming. The battle that would later ensue would mark the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So now that we're all caught up with that story, let's turn it on its head a little bit. What you may be unknowledgeable about is that this poem that we all learned in history class never talked about there being a second writer, William Dawes. Paul Revere and William Dawes both set out on different paths, but departed at the very same time with the same message, and only one would be widely remembered today. You say, how could that be so? Well, the reason's pretty simple, because William Dawes, while his plan was simple, it was flawed. He raced through town as fast as he could to deliver the message, and only occasionally stopped at houses along the way. Paul Revere took a more strategic approach. See, Paul, he knew the power of social networking. He knew who the barbers, the judges, the bartenders, the political leaders in town. These people were the center, the heart of various diverse social networks in town. He knew he could call on them when he needed them to help him spread his message. William will make it to Lexington 30 minutes quicker than Paul, but Paul will get all the credit. William will be lost in history, and with him an important message. It's not about how fast you can ride, but who you can deliver that message to. Sometimes where we live can make us very narrow-minded about history. Many of us, I'm sure, are aware of in October of 1871, Chicago faced the worst fire on record, later recalled the Chicago Fire. Over 3 days, an immense fire burned across the city, destroying 3 miles of property and killing 300 people. Very intense fire. But did you know that the same very time that we were fighting our fire, 4 additional fires across the Midwest simultaneously and independently were blazing? In Peshtiga, Wisconsin, they fought a fire twice the size of Rhode Island, killing 2,000 people and leaving tens of thousands of people injured. That very fire today remains America's most deadly natural fire. Additionally, across Michigan, 3 other fires independently blazed, killing 500 to 1,000 more people. Selfishly, a lot of us in Chicago are unfamiliar with these fires, thinking Chicago was the worst that it got, even though only 10% of the people, of the 3,000 people that died in those 3 days, died here in Chicago. Sometimes I can get really mixed up with history, but better yet, sometimes that truth is only part of it. Thank you.